being that we're going to hopefully discuss in the near future tonight more in detail about the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe, and his arrest, liberation, and also the backstory of the dispute between the Vilna Gaon and Alter Rebbe, the Chassidim, etc. So our focus is on the Alter Rebbe as prep, so to speak, for Yud-Tes Kislev, as we mentioned, which is Monday night, I think, right? So therefore, we haven't done this in quite a while. We'll look at the Alter Rebbe's own words on the Parsha, okay? Because in so his most famous book, Sefer of Chassidus for the Parsha is, let me see if I can, it's right here on the bookshelf next to our mascot, the bunny, right? I could get it 1 second. This is the first main book of the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus that was printed. In fact, actually, the first main book of his Chassidus that was printed was the Siddur with his Chassidus, which we used as a primary source when we were learning Kegavna more than 2 years ago. But this was exclusively like on the Parsha, Bereshis and on, and this covers till the middle or end, sort of towards the end of Shemos for the first 2 volumes, and then there was a break for several years and maybe at least a decade or 2 until they published the second volume for Vayikra B'Midbar Dvarim. And the reason why there was this time gap was because this was the period where there was more stringent rules of publishing Jewish books or religious books in Russia, and had to go through extreme censorship. So a lot of publishing of Jewish books and from like the 1830s till the 1840s, like I say maybe somewhere like the late 1820s or 30s till the 1840s or 50s, really diminished. And in fact, what they would do is there was some like underground stuff. Like some would publish private or semi-privately in Russia, but they would put the name of where it's published somewhere outside of Russia, like the name of Germany, or they would change the date to a time when it was more permitted to publish. Be it as it may, and it was published, and this was put together by the successor to the grandchild of the Alter Rebbe, the third Chabad Rebbe, who's known as the Tzemach Tzedek. Okay. So what we'll do is we will look at the way the Alter Rebbe discusses this in Torah, in this very book, on our Parsha, because he does it like a lot. Like sometimes in the Chassidic discourses, it veers off to the other subjects. It goes away from the actual pshat or interpreting the verses itself, the story itself in the Torah. But in this specific one, it gives it well. It just explicates it beautifully, and also because it's mamish talking on what we're addressing here. This is a Chassidic discourse and interpretation of this week's Parsha that he said in the end of year 1804 or beginning of 1805, sometime like December or 1804 or January 1805. Exactly this night. It's actually, see now, it was Yud-Tes Kislev, Tov Kuf Samach Hey. That's 5,565 to the Hebrew calendar. And in fact, he said this interpretation in 3 parts over Shabbos, both Friday night, Shabbos by day, and so on, or in the morning and afternoon, what have you. And here we have it, okay? So I'm just going to read through, if we read all the Hebrew, but just like to get, we're going to go through it as quickly as we can. But this is the pith of the Kabbalistic with Chassidic interpretation, which will explain to us, again, that motif we have, that even the adversaries of the tzaddikim in the Chumash, the Lavans and the Esavs and what have you, they themselves are coming from the highest spiritual levels. Okay, so here he goes. Vayishlach Yaakov al Esav, right? Yaakov sent that message. Hine yedua, it's known. Sheyaakov shorshehu mebchidas shema de'elam Tikun. The source is from the name Mah, the 45 of Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, like we showed before in the chart, right? Hey Al Yud Vav Dal, Hey Aleph Vav Aleph Vav Hey Aleph, right? Of the world of Tikkun. As we know, there's two main states of the world. Let me see if I can find the chart we usually use. Here it is. It's up on the screen. And we spoke about this more detail last week, how it's represented also by the different pattern on the wool or skin of the sheep that Yaakov breeded, or through husbandry. That there's a kudim where all the light is in one vessel that couldn't hold. So then they made 10. Then that's the 10 spirit light in one vessel. Then the second, then Sephirot 2.0 was 10 lights in 10 isolated separate vessels. That didn't hold out because they all smashed against each other. That created the Shvirat the Kalim, breaking the vessels, and the shards flew all the way down here. Most specifically, in 288 sparks of those original lights that were up there fell down to our Earth, and that's what we're working on. Then collecting, and then there was the Tzimtzum, and that created the 10 Sphirot as we know now, which are separate entities, but they're connected through channels. That's the world of Tikkun. So the world of Nikudim, when there were 10 isolated, that is Tohu. Okay? Above that, even above Tohu, is Zakodim. Okay, so I'm just going to say out loud, just so we have a reference as we continue here. Esav represented this world of chaos, the Tohu, this Nikudim area. It was, right? And as it's brought down in Kabbalah, one of the aspects why Tohu, chaos, couldn't survive, because the term is Eiris Merubim, the Kalim Muatim, was the light. There was surplus of light, but the vessels were too small. That means the light was overwhelming with too much light. And it's only in Tikkun where the light diminished, Eiris Muatim, but the Kalim Merubim, the vessels were larger, and therefore it became more stable. Okay. And it found an equilibrium between light and vessel, and long lasting. That's how our world exists. So when we say Yaakov represents Mah, the word Mah of Tikkun, that means Yaakov represents the highest levels of Atzilut. In Mah, again, is the name of God. That means Mashpia, emanator. That means the light force of the healthy Tikkun, rectified, stable Sphirot. All right? Whereas Esav represented the lights of chaos, Sphirot lights of chaos. So, if I ask you who is higher in this context, is Esav better or greater, or Yaakov? The answer is, on one level, Esav is greater and higher, right? Because there's more light. But it can't last, it can't survive. It leads to the shattering of the vessels. It's like we read before from the Zohar. If light is too strong, the eyes cannot absorb it. So again, Esav in a way is superior than Yaakov when it comes to its hierarchy of light. But in a way, being that Yaakov is more permanent, more balanced and grounded, even in a way. So in that way, in the world of Tikkun, so in a way, Yaakov has a certain superiority. Okay. So now, just to plug back to what we were reading before, that Esav said Yesh li Rav, that I have a lot, many. What does he mean? That's what Esav is saying. He's telling Yaakov, you're from the world of Tikkun. You're lower than me. What are you coming to me to try to give me? I'm from Tohu. I have Yesh li Rav. I have the greatest lights, more lights, surplus of light. But of course, Yaakov's response in countering to him was, no, but Esav, you have greater light, but it's all chaos. It's all just there's no control to it. It's just there's nothing. It's separate lights. It's disorganized, and therefore it's non-functional, non-productive. It's not everlasting. It's not It's not healthy. And so Yaakov says that even though I am maybe, the way you see it, lower, but my light is healthy and stable. And therefore, Yesh li kol, Yaakov says, I have everything. And in fact, that's why Yaakov is trying to go to Esav to take his state of Tikun, of the fixed state, the 3.0 of Sphirot state, plug it with Esav's great light, of where the light is greater, not just to get to Esav, because really it's to reveal something that's higher, to the Adam Kadmon, the primordial person, even higher, to the Ein Sof itself, to the maamar, the illuminator. Okay? So that's the dynamic, that's what's happening here between Yaakov and Esav. Incidentally, and we're going to see this maybe it's mentioned here, this is coming dafka after Yaakov accomplished with Lavan. Because Lavan is coming even higher than Tohu. This is the way it seems, the way I understand from Kabbalistic. The Lavan ha'elyon, the supernal whiteness of Lavan that we spoke about, is higher, it's even more like in Akudim, even higher than Tohu. So Yaakov already worked through that. He accessed it, and he did the birur, as we said, the sorting out, and the elevating even that state. So now he's coming to do the next step, to clean up there, to tap into the tohu states of the light and transform it into tikkun. Okay. So that is okay. So so that is the setup here. So let's just continue here in the maamar, and then we'll go through this a bit, and then we'll go on to about Yud-Tes Kislev. Okay. Yaakov is from the source of the name Ma 45 in the world of Tikun. Esav, however, is from the world of chaos. The lights of chaos, the Tohu, is so really great, very big. They couldn't remain contained in the vessels. They departed, separated from the vessels. And by that it became surrounding, circumambulating type of lights. Called transcendent light, but transcendent sounds more virtuous. Makif means it's something that cannot go into the vessel. So it just roams on the outside, around it. So sometimes we say makif is greater than pnimi, than the internal. It's so big it cannot even go in. So it's true. But on the other hand, it's disconnected. It's not really accomplishing what the light needs to accomplish. So again, there's that polarity of the makif, the circumferencing light. It's greater, yet it's less functional. It's not really achieving what it's supposed to. And as we know, as we showed before on the chart, because they were makif, they couldn't be contained in the vessels. The vessels broke and fell down. That's the shvirat kelim, the famous shattering of vessels. Therefore, Esav, as manifested down physically in our world, was taka, an evil person, and really lower than Yaakov. But vis-a-vis its source of sources, as it is in those circumferencing lights of chaos, the lights of chaos are higher than Tikun. Yada yada. So okay, it goes on. Yaakov thought he was away for 20 years, and Esav went out there, and he thought, Esav has so much great high lights and so much exposure and access to these sublime levels. 20 years, he must have worked things out. He must have really elevated himself. And he must return to his highest supernal source up there in Tohu. The way surrounding lights in chaos before Tikun. So now Yaakov thought, now I'm going to go over to Esav and now become even more complete by merging with the certain benefits of the light that Esav contains. That in a way is even greater than him. Therefore, Yaakov sent messengers. Lefanav means before him, but also mean above him. Okay, lefanav mamish, meaning to a place that is a higher level than Yaakov himself. Where Esav achiv seira, to Esav his brother in Seir, this is the primordial kings of chaos. Okay, what is this primordial kings of chaos? Who knows? What are we referring to? And no, or remember, we did mention this last year. I don't expect people to remember. It's also related to our Parshat, the end of our Parshat. Does anyone remember? So if you look at the end of our Parshat, there's a whole litany of the offspring of Esav. That's one part. In copious detail, who he married, his children, grandchildren, blah, blah, blah. That is followed at the very end of the Parshat with 7 kings. Really, it's technically 8 kings. Let me just, you know what, actually, I'm going to put it up in the Parsha because it's good to see it visually. These are the offspring of Esav, who's Edom, blah, blah, blah. Then, you see how long it is? And then it goes like this. These are the kings that ruled in Edom before there was a king in Israel. What does it mean before there was a king in Israel? It's like we're saying before. Esav, who's Edom, the land of Edom, is Tohu. So that precedes Tikun. We are in Tikun. So the kingdom of Israel, which is mainly Tikun. So we're saying before Tikun was Tohu, before the censorship. So in that state of Tohu, there were 7 kings. And he goes through that Vayishlach Vayam says each one a king, then he died, and then succeeded by another. Then there's an 8th. His name is Hadar. Hadar. But it doesn't say he died. Okay? So according to Kabbalah, these 7 kings represent the 7 sephirais of the world of chaos, of Tohu, which is the source of the way the spirit come down into Klippot, in the other side. Okay? And it starts with Das. And here I think I have from last year. In fact, I'll show you. You look up on your screen. It's in Hebrew, but you'll have the chart which shows the 8 kings actually, and how they represented in the Sefirot, the Torah. So the first is Dat, followed by Chesed, Gvur, Tiferetz. Then you have Netzach and Hod, which are 1, followed by Yesod and Malchus. Those are 7, or maybe even 8 if you say Netzach Hod separate. And then it's Hadar. The last one is, it says here that includes all, or which means it was the conduit to bring out, to be the beginning of creating the healthy, positive sefirot that we have of the world of Tikkun. Okay, so when we say the 7 primordial kings of Tohu, it's referring to this, to these kings, and also meaning the sefirot as sefirot of Tohu and then the Klippos. Okay. Which are also, again, a state of being surrounding. They're not fully absorbed, contained within the vessels. So Yaakov wanted to access these high levels of these 7 primordial kings of chaos, and to take from those high supernal lights and bring it down into his world of Tikkun, in a light that's manifested absorbed internally in the vessels, taking these high lights together with the lower internal lights and become great. Take the intensity of the lights that are beyond the vessels and somehow manifest them in the vessels. So you have the quality of both great lights and great vessels. And therefore, the Yaakov continues to the messengers to tell Esav that I already worked through Lavan, that great state of Lavan, and now I'm coming to you, and I had what, as we said before, ox, donkey, sheep, servants. Why all this? He said, Tahainu shehidiyai, that Yaakov is informing Esav that he already finished doing his work in the world of Atzilus, of Tikkun. He says that these are different levels of working through different forces in Atzilut to bring it to the positive side. He already worked them through the state of the name of and Shema. That's Vayili. To break it down even more specifically, I'll just share with you. According to Chassidus, tzayin sheep represents humility or humbleness. Sheep is bad. It's very low, especially compared to the bull, which is like really powerful, or the donkey, who's really stubborn. Right? The sheep is very pacified. So the story is, last Parsha, the emphasis is on how many sheep Yaakov has. Right? We asked before why now why sheep is put third in place, whereas last Parsha it's number one. Because Yaakov himself, when he was dealing with himself, as we said before, Yaakov's virtue of being humble, being sincere, tam, and being empty enough to receive it all, that was being in the state of tzon, a sheep. I think last week we also said the word tzon, sheep also means to go out, right? He was able to leave his ego, leave it at the door, as we say, to get higher. So that was for Yaakov to be in the right state for himself and deal with it. But now he's going to deal with a force as if not greater than himself, Esav. It's almost like Luke Skywalker meeting Darth Vader or something, with the laser duel. So now actually Yaakov actually had to tap into something of a certain strength, a certain even bullish type of attitude when dealing with Esav, and even Chamer, a certain stubbornness too, the donkey. And this is a lesson for us too. Of course, this is great to be humble and do things and from humility and all that, but there are times, especially when we have people that or powers or situations that are really too much for us, and meaning that they're really strong, bullies, right? You can't be a wimp to a bully either. You have to be. That's the thing. Unfortunately, like it's a balance that sometimes you have to stand up to a bully with I wouldn't say with bullish behavior, but not being weak either. It works that way in politics too, as much as in the playground, on the playground. All right. So Yaakov, dealing with Esav, actually did have to bring out some of his bull and donkey element. Okay. By the way, when we say here donkey, there are places that say it's also referring to the donkey of Mashiach. Okay, that he was already saying, he's channeling, he's ready, he wants to push Esav, transform Esav, because he knew once he transformed Esav, that would be Mashiach time. Right? Transforming the Mount of Seir, the Mount of... Also, the word for donkey, chamar, also comes from the word chomer, like material or mundaneness. So Yaakov was saying, I already have experience by working with Lavan and all that. I'm no more just this bookworm, like goody-good scholar that you remember when we grew up staying in the tents or yeshiva, Shem and Ever. No, I went out into the real world, worked the fields and the cattle and all that. I've already have experience transforming the chomer, the material of the physical world, to the holy, and therefore now I'm coming to you, Esav. So to transform the things of you too, Esav, to a higher holy level. Okay. They say, and so he's saying again, how does Yaakov say how they to transform it, matter all these states of bull, donkey, and so on and so forth, sheep and on. Because I already spent time with Lavan. What is Lavan? Pishchnis Lavan Elyon, that supernal high light of whiteness that's even higher than Tohu. Because that was the main source and power for Yaakov to be able to work through, do the Tikun in the world of Atzilus. The Kibun Shekain, and it's being so, since Yaakov said I already accomplished it, and I've already been using that supernal whiteness to do it. Now is time to bring it down into and work it through the circumferencing light of Tohu, of chaos. Because if I didn't complete it, by the way, you see the word nigmar v'nishlam, again, like the word shalom or shalem. So again, this is, again, I think shtickle remez, we could say, to what you were asking of why Esav would be related to the gematria shalom, okay? He's saying because, so now again, Yaakov says, because if I did not finish doing what I was supposed to until this point, that because the Zohar says that blessing, that means the wholeness of the channel from above, does not come down into an empty, meaning empty of holiness place, but only in a complete or whole place. So again, the word shlim, shalom. Now, shenigmar tikun betachlis, that the tikun was now totally finished with harizash lasar shlim. So now we're ready for that complete whole space. The vessel is it has no holes in it. It's tight. That we can bring down this high supernal light. It continues from the verse, from the pasuk. And therefore I sent to tell him, my master, to find grace in your eyes. That to draw down and to radiate, illuminate from your Esav surrounding lights of chaos down to me in Tikun. And this is to find the grace, this higher light, and to transform the darkness to light in Tikun. And that is the Asar Shlim, that complete place. And therefore, to find that real grace, that to bring the blessing down. And therefore, what did the messengers, when they come back from Yaakov, tell Yaakov? That we went to your brother Esav, and he has 400 people with him, like we said, right? 400 Spartans, so to speak. Perish, meaning that what did the messengers tell Yaakov? Was like this: that even though because of you, because of you, Yaakov is worthy and appropriate to bring down this great light of Makif, the surrounding light of Tohu, because you, Yaakov, are already shalem, complete in the space of Tikun. But Esav, you Yaakov, thought that Esav already purified himself enough that his Tohu, chaos lights, is now all basically healthy. But the truth is, no, Esav didn't really work through his chaos lights. He's still on the other side, right? He's the force is not with him fully yet. He's still Esav. He's still Esav through, right? That's why he doubles Elachicha El Esav. He says, yes, he's your brother, but he's still Esav. He's still in that broken state of the broken vessels of Tohu. He was not fully purified, clarified yet. And if so, how? I know that Yaakov, you want to bring down that great light of Makif, of surrounding lights of Tohu down, but how could you? If Esav himself, because he himself, don't look at Esav the way he really is in the highest source, but look at Esav the way he's down here in the practical world. And the fact is, like we said before, Esav is inferior to you. He's still a Rasha. And then he goes on, I'm just not going to read into it, that represents the 400. The 400 is, and I don't know if you remember this when we were learning in Idra Rabbi Zohar, related to when we were learning B'nai Chala's song, when we were speaking about the forehead. You remember we went through the whole thing of God's so-called forehead. We went through all the details, the hair, the beard, the eyes, the nose, and the ear, and there was mainly the forehead because Shabbos afternoon is the illumination of the mitzvah des the Arachampim, right, or Adam Kadmon, the forehead of God that shines down, which is the most positive light. Now in that Zohar, there's reference that from that forehead there shines out 400 strong, I want to say courts or judges or what have you, 400 strong forces, which he also connects with the 400 shekel that Abraham used to buy the Marat Machpelah, meaning that it's really the highest lights, so to speak, but they have not been worked through yet. As high as they may be, all the way up to Keter, but still they are Esav. Esav still controls it. Esav did not transform it yet, right? It's still heavy and strong lights, but only in the future when Mashiach comes and death is eradicated, there'll be immortality. Then there'll be no need for the Marat Machpelah burial. There'll be resurrection. So then those 400, those high source forces will go back to its healthy state. And therefore, and that's also just notice that he says also that is the gifts that Yaakov sent to Esav. That means that Yaakov wanted to elevate mayim nukman, the feminine waters, as we speak about, meaning that's the way, the state things are down here. Another term for it would be, like we spoke about in the past, or choser, to return light. Another term would be ha'olat nitzotzot, to elevate the sparks, which this is important to what we're going to soon read about the Vilna Gaon and Alter Rebbe. That's right. There's two waters. So there's masculine water, mayim duchrin, that comes from up down. Then there's mayim nukman, feminine waters that rise. The whole point is to elevate the feminine waters and to bring down the masculine waters. So that means that speaks about ha'olas man, elevating mayim nukman, feminine waters, and lahamshich mad, to bring down mayim duchrin, the masculine waters from chaos. And he says also that's why also Yaakov was also sent non-kosher animals as an offering and in a life state, because the whole way of halacha, what is kosher, what is treif, and how you're supposed to bring an offering, a sacrifice, that's all in our world of Tikun way. Our way, the Tikun, then there's things that are bifurcated and linear, yet there's right and wrong and all that. But in its source, where light and darkness are co-equal, like we began speaking at the beginning, there you could bring an offering, even if it's a non-kosher animal, even if it's a bull, even if, like he says, he brought camels. And as he also, even that, he was able to bring offerings, because he's saying, you, Esav, you represent chaos. So I am activating, I'm expressing myself with an offering of your world of chaos, where kosher and treif is all one. Okay. Then it says that we have the part of the Parashah that we were reading earlier. Yaakov prays to God, the God of my father and mother. Then how he says, I was small to all your kindness, and save me from my brother Esav, so he won't come and beat me up. And you told me how much great we like. That's Hatzileni Mna, right? Meaning that Yaakov prayed that in order, that meaning after Yaakov found out from the messengers that Esav has not been worked out yet, he's still on the other side. So now Yaakov has to invoke his parents, his ancestors, Abraham and Yitzchak, that with their power, now he'll be able to now maybe transform Esav and bring it down here. To save me from this Esav down here and to transform it. What do he do thereafter? As we read earlier, he splits his camp into two parts. He says, so in case one is attacked, the other will survive. But deeper, and we're not going to read it all in depth, but it's related also to what we were reading before from the Zohar, is again, there's two ways to, there is, as we spoke before about the triple three, like Nisan Iyar Sivan thing, or Tisha Chashon, you have 1 and 2 that are isolated, and then the third comes and unites them together, right? In whatever way. 2 verses contradicting, the third reconciles, or thesis, antithesis, synthesis, so on. And in fact, and I'm just reading out like off the text here, just therefore in the Sefirot, the way the Sefirot are aligned for us in our world of Tikun. So there's 3 lines. So you look, there's one like her, vertically on the right, then on the left, Bina Gvura Haid. But then you have the middle, Kavem Tsoy, the middle line, which is Keser or Das, Tfihar Sisait, Shechina or Malchus. So according to Kabbalah, this is the ultimate healthy way, because when you have two opposites, polarities, then you have the third that unites them together, okay? So that is the healthy way. But if you only have two lines, that means that there's separation of antagonists. That's the unhealthy way. So in a way, Yaakov is actually saying, I'm here to elevate you, Esav, in the world of Tohu. You, in the world of Tohu, are only two lines, two separate things. So I am going to enact that too, to be at your level, Esav, like Tohu, of two, not wholesome, three that is really one, right? So I'm going to do that, to be that way. As he says here, right? In a way that Chesed is separate from Gvura and so on. And here he gives a parable. Right? Again, as we said before, in Tohu, there's more surplus light and the vessels are small. Meaning, what does it mean the vessel is small? That the one vessel cannot contain two opposite lights. Chesed and Gvura. Al derech mashal ba'adam. I can just read this in the text because it's something like a parable. Like the following analogy. And if someone has of low intelligence, small intelligence, he cannot contain two opposite concepts or things, right? If immature, childish mind sees something virtuous, he sees it just one way. He's not analytical, or the child is not analytical to debate pros and cons. It's if you see something one way, that's the way. It takes more adult intelligence to start seeing things from different perspectives and even contained. I could see more than one perspective or opinion, but I could still, in my mind, outweigh one over the other and say one is more correct than the other, even if I see both ways. So again, the adult is containing more than one way, or let's say two ways of seeing something, and still can be able to emphasize which is the correct. Whereas a child will only see one way, right? Because a child cannot absorb two opposite concepts in the head, right? So if you see something to the virtue, positive, cannot see it to the negative, and score it, right? Yeah. So therefore, he's only in one pathway at once at each time. And this is the same idea, having two separate lines coming. That Chesed is itself Gvura itself. But in Tikun, where you have the middle, which is Tiferet, which you combine and unite Chesed with Gvura, and even if you see something negative, you could still see the positive aspect to it, right? That's maturity. You see the subtle differences. And you even see that in most cases, even something good is not always 100% right and good. Something that's bad and the negative is not always 100% bad. They each can contain a little of the other too. Okay. Okay. So that is the idea. So therefore, Yaakov, even so, as we said before, but since he's saying, just like the feminine words that to elevate have to match the masculine words from above coming down. So now that Yaakov wanted to get up to Tohu, the chaos, therefore he himself enacted a Tohu, chaos, way down here with two separate, and hoping that will make the setup to be able to bring down that high light of Tohu from Esav. And that too is why he even brought these non-kosher animals offerings, saying, I am on that level of Tohu. This was going on further. He even goes on here explaining what a camel is. Camels has a positive attitude of like gomel, gamul, to be very benevolent, giving to the others. But then, just to end off this part, at least, he says, but only Yaakov was able to even attempt to get into the state of chaos, or the Torah of chaos, which is beyond kosher and treif or non, and so, and because this was also before the giving of the Torah, right? But we, the Torah is already given, and we are firmly anchored in the world of Tikkun. Whatever's treif and forbidden Torah, we have to keep away from totally. We cannot elevate. And so on, and only Yaakov is able to. Okay? So we'll stop here on this segment. I mean, there's more to it, but you get the gist. And I think that's it. That's enough on the Parsha now.